what up, guys? It's your boy, Joe Brooks, actor, author, entrepreneur, producer, and talent manager, and you're listening to the one and only Still Toking with.
Hey everyone, this is Rich Ramon, and you're listening to Still Toking with. Yeah.
Hi, this is Maurice LaMarche, and that name will mean nothing to you, nor the sound of my voice, unless I become the brain from TV's Pinky in the Brain, or Calculon, the star of all my circuits from Futurama. Oh Lord, there's a bottle, so from Futurama. And you are listening to this, and you are listening to Still Toking with on the Dorkening Podcast Network.
So come on, hey. Step it off, break it down and lose it. Come on, hey. Follow us to the new revolution. Come on, hey. Step it off, break it down and lose it. Come on, hey. Follow us to the new revolution.
Hey, happy 3rd of July. Well, happy Wednesday, but happy 3rd of July. So I'm really excited about tonight's show. Yeah, well, if you're here watching, you know. So without further ado, my backup to the backup.
It's me. Oh my God, I'm on TV. Mom, hey. It's my mom's birthday today. Do you know that?
Oh, happy birthday, Mom.
Mom.
Yeah, Mum Jaja Jeremy.
Mom of the day.
No, did you add more stuff to your ceiling? It looks different.
I did. I put up. I normally don't during the summer, but I put up some comic books because it was looking so bare. And yeah.
Okay. Show's not about you, Jaja. Sorry.
It's all about me.
See?
Jeffrey.
See, but I'm still observant because I noticed it looked different.
Thank you, Jeff.
See?
I appreciate you.
I wanted to compliment him on that, you know? And yes, I'm looking forward to chatting with this guy. You know, I mean, this is part of my younger years, I'm going to say. You know, I was young once, I think.
Yeah.
That's what they tell me anyway, you know?
Right.
So,
Yeah.
but yeah, let's just bring him right in. This guy, Jim Hardy, he is the archivist for the Bob Hope Foundation, along with, I'm sure, a whole slew of other things that you do. So welcome to the show.
Yes, welcome.
Thanks, Phyllis. Thanks for having me. Glad to be on, and happy birthday to Jeremy's mom.
Okay.
I didn't know Jeremy. Came on.
Okay. I'm sure she'll forgive you all.
You know, I was actually surprised you said you have a mom. You weren't hatched or anything.
Right? Straight out the egg.
Right? See?
So
straight out the test tube.
So with it being almost Independence Day, I figured this would be a great fitting show because Bob was well known for entertaining our troops, you know, over many, many years. But you just launched the Bob Hope YouTube channel. Can you tell us a little bit about what is the Bob Hope YouTube channel?
Yeah, what it is, fellas, is that we have, you know, I mean, a tremendous amount of content here from Bob's long career, and no really conduit to share it anymore because, you know, nobody's watching DVDs anymore and tape and stuff like that. You know, it's all streaming now, and we wouldn't know how to do that. You know, quite honestly, it's not in our wheelhouse at our age. But there's an outfit called Spotted Dog, and they know how to do this kind of thing. It's what they do. And I knew Mitch from Time Life, and he said, you know, I mean, let's get together and get this stuff out there because you have all this wonderful content, and nobody can see it. So that was the plan, and that's how it got started. We should have done it a long time ago, but we didn't know how to do it. And these fellows do all the heavy lifting. And, you know, I mean, it's just an opportunity now, you know, for people who haven't ever experienced Bob to have an opportunity to see what he was about, what his comedy was, his timing. And for people that have enjoyed him for decades and decades, they're going to see all kinds of new material as well, because the reality was, you know, we all remember if you didn't see it when it was on the first time, you simply didn't see it.
Right.
So there's going to be a lot of new material, even for the the seasoned fan, and we're very excited to get this stuff back out there because we live in a real out of sight, out of mind kind of environment. So we don't want it to be forgotten.
Right.
Okay.
Right. I mean,
did you look into any like streaming services to pick some of this stuff up?
You mean to pick it up just in pieces, like a Netflix or something?
Well,
yeah.
like a Hulu or even like the Tubies or like the Red Corals or
Red Coral Universe.
There's a whole ton of them out there.
Yeah.
That can actually, as they get played, you can actually, you earn decent money on some of them.
Right.
To help the foundation out. I didn't know if that was something you had, explored as
Well,
opposed to just YouTube.
We didn't explore it because we just simply wouldn't know the players. We don't, it's a new environment for us, and they're foreign to us. We're from the television world.
Right.
That's so many years behind us now that we were just sort of, I guess, in a sit and wait mode, and if somebody called and said we'd like to put some of the shows on, and we probably would have said that's great, but
okay. I was just curious because I know old shows like the I Love Lucy's and stuff like that, but those are syndicated as well. So
right, and I think that's a great question, Jeff, because I was actually thinking the same thing. When we'll talk offline because this is more about the YouTube channel. You as the archivist and your stories of Bob and things like that tonight. But Jeff and I do have an affiliation with a streaming service that we could connect you with.
Yeah.
That and like Jeff said, the revenue that comes back can go right back into the foundation, and hopefully help with that as well.
Absolutely. Sure. Open to any discussions because whatever helps to keep his legacy alive and out there, and if it brings a few dollars into the foundation, they spend it in really wonderful ways. So
right. I will say you're absolutely correct about out of sight, out of mind style of the world, but I think Bob was so legendary that I don't think he would ever be out of sight, out of mind, because to this day, you can still see various things. And the YouTube channel is a great place to go, folks. So if you want to check that out, make sure you check out the show notes up above or down below, depending on where you're watching or listening to us, because all those links are there, But I kind of want to take a quick turn back to how you got affiliated with Bob Hope, the Bob Hope Foundation and stuff. And it was one little crazy summer in 1986.
Yeah, it was really just a stroke of luck in many ways because there was a fellow that worked for the production company, and he wanted to or had to take the summer off for reasons that I don't know. And they needed somebody to take his place just for the summer. They had a show to do, and Bob always had personal appearances that he did. And I had a degree in film and television production, so it was plug and play. They didn't have to teach me anything. I could just step right in and do what he used to do. And at the end of the summer, they came to me and said, "Look, we'd like you to stick around. And what do you think about making this permanent?" And I could, where do I sign? Because I thought it was going to be a month job. You'll meet a lot of, I like being a page or something at NBC. You'll meet a lot of people and make a lot of contacts, and then when the summer's over, hopefully you figure out something to do with all those contacts. And so 38 years later, I'm still here. It's the only job I've ever had. I have the shortest resume in history.
Right,
that's impressive.
The shortest resume in history, but probably one of the best.
Well, I certainly couldn't have asked for a better ride.
Right.
A hell of a lot of fun with it. I'm sure you feel the same way. I can't wait to go to work. I love what I do, and so it's not work at all. It's a job, but I wouldn't say it out loud, but I'd probably do it for free.
Now, I'm curious as to what medium all of these things are archived in. I mean, you must have reel-to-reels. You must have all kinds of different types of recordings and good videos and bad videos and
it goes all the way back. Or, you know, the oldest stuff that we have is some silent film that Bob's brother shot when Bob was in vaudeville, and he would stand in the wings and shoot. So this is 8mm shot in the 1920s. That's the oldest stuff that we have. You want to talk about radio? We had those were discs, glass discs, which were very fragile. During the war, when you couldn't use glass, they were cardboard, if you can believe it, laminated cardboard.
Wow.
And that's what they recorded the shows on. And, you know, and they still play, you know, they worked. So, you know, and then, you know, kinescope, you know, in television, kinescope, and for people that don't know what a kinescope was, you had no way of recording television. Television was live. But they would set up a movie camera, aim it at the screen on the set that was, you were seeing the broadcast go out live, and they would film it. And that was the only way that they could keep a copy of what they had just done. And that was called a kinescope. And boy, I mean, it's like watching a show in a snowstorm. I mean, the quality is so abysmal.
Yeah.
But, you know, that's what we had. And then it got into tape. And, you know, tape, every format of tape had its own idiosyncrasies and difficulties. The glue from the cases would seep through the felt and get on the tapes. And the tapes would shed. You know, they were spliced. And every time the splice would roll over the head, the picture would roll. It was just murder to get all of these things digitized from their original format. And we had some wonderful guys out here in LA that had 2-inch tape machines. You know, I mean, they're as big as this room. And they had a whole bunch of them out back that they cannibalized for parts. It was almost like a mechanic shop, you know, to keep these machines running so that they could record and digitize these 2-inch tapes, because you didn't know when, you know, the last time it was ever going to play. You know, these things were really old and unstable. And, you know, so it was a painstaking process, but we have it all digitized. So, you know, now it live, but it was
that must have been a process.
Yeah, like
I was gonna say, yeah.
Was there any close
you know,
calls of like losing any of the footage or anything like that?
Well, here's an interesting story. When color was new in the late 50s, NBC had a color studio, and the guts of the recording machines were different, and the heads were different for color. And we had some shows. Bob wouldn't pay for the color, so the shows were in black and white. They were recorded in the color studio, but they were in black and white because he didn't want to pay the extra. And, the only way to save those shows was these guys over here in LA had the original heads, recording heads, and all of the original cards and guts of the machines that they had got from NBC. They had the original stuff. And that's the only way you could play these shows, despite the fact they were in black and white and will always be in black and white. You had to play them on a color playback machine. You had to play them on that color playback machine to get a picture out of them. And they had it.
Wow.
You know, I mean, so what are the odds? It's 2 years of shows that would have been lost forever. Because nobody knew where the guts were, and they had the original equipment. So, you know, I mean, there's luck in this man's story and our story. There's luck everywhere. You know, luck of the draw.
Wow.
Now, when the channel, has the channel already gone live?
Yes.
Yeah, I was looking at it today.
Oh, okay. Are you able, like, right now to go to like any show and just watch that USO, or are you guys still adding more and more as time goes on?
We're adding material every week, at least twice a week. New material. What we're not doing, Jeff, is putting up entire shows. That we have not done. What we have found, and the fellas at Spotted Dog kind of knew this already from their experience. The attention spans are so short with people.
Mm-hmm.
We'll put up, clips that might be 6 or 7 or 8 minutes.
Yeah.
And then we'll put up what they call shorts, and they'll be, maybe 45 seconds or a minute and a half or something like that. So as a point of example, the Jackson 5, which I thought would be huge. They did 2 songs. Michael's doing the robot and the moonwalk, and they do a little patter with Bob between the 2 songs. 1,000 views. But the short version, about a minute and a half, 30,000, 40,000 views.
Oh yeah.
People see something that's 6 minutes, and apparently they just don't even start. Unless it's a Star Wars thing, those people will watch anything and everything, and they sat through the whole 8.5 minutes of the Star Wars.
Yes, we will.
Yeah.
But for whatever reason, people just they want to get short little pops and then see what is put in on their plate next. So I don't know that there would be a lot of interest in having the whole shows up there. I don't know who would sit and actually watch a whole show.
Well, I think my generation would.
Well, yeah.
I certainly would. I can sit and watch a movie.
Yeah, I mean, I think the younger generation with something like that, if you could do like the audio side of things, just the audio, and release it in almost like a podcast platform style.
Yeah, they would listen to that.
They would listen to that because a lot of people do listen to podcasts
especially
at work.
While driving or
at work, driving. When the wife wants them to do the honey to-do list. Anything like that. So that might be a thought moving forward for you gentlemen.
Yeah. We had
probably more work.
Interestingly, a lot of the shows wouldn't translate to just be audio only because a lot of them are visual outside of the for instance. But radio, he was on radio for 20 years, and why you would think that nobody would be interested in radio anymore. Just what you say, because people now are accustomed again to listening to something that they don't have to look at. They had some incredible guest stars on radio. So, for people that are nostalgic in some way, I think that, there is a market for some of that. Like you say, you don't have to watch it, you just listen to it.
Right, that's true. And I mean, our show is video and audio, of course. And we've had a lot of shows that got ripped down. And if you weren't watching it, you missed facial expressions, you missed one-liners, you missed jokes. But what I have found is that if somebody listens to that podcast, they're more apt to go back and watch the video side of it to see why were we laughing? What did I miss? Yeah. So it might be one of those things that you guys might think about.
Well, it's another way to reach a different audience. You know what I mean?
Right.
The different types of people. Like I like to watch things. I don't listen to podcasts.
See, I do both.
I very, very rarely even listen to the radio.
That's because you're listening to the voices in your head.
Yeah, it needs to be quiet so I can understand what I'm doing.
But just food for thought. That's all.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm gonna have to search for how you play a cardboard disc.
I know.
Put it on a record player, just the same as anything else. It had a lacquer on it. Jeff, and but it was in fact just cardboard, lacquered cardboard, and
that's interesting.
Those things held up for through the years, and they play fine. We recorded them without any trouble at all. So in an odd way, they were more durable than the glass because the glass they had to be treated with kid gloves. I mean, cardboard. Well, you remember when you were a kid, you could cut out a little record from the back of your cereal box.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Right? It's the same thing, basically. Those things were indestructible. Those cardboard discs. So.
If the music was lousy, it was a Frisbee.
That's right.
Wow.
So who would you say is probably like shocked you guys for hits on views and stuff? Has any of the pieces that have gone up been like, oh, we don't really think this is going to go anywhere, but like actually people have loved it?
Yeah, interestingly, for PGA week, I thought, well, we should put up, some golf stuff. So we put up some patter that Bob did with Arnold Palmer. And, they're just talking about Bob's game. And Arnold, gets all the jokes and is making a lot of fun of Bob. And I thought, well, this, this is a very niche, sort of a thing for older golfers and so forth. And boy, it got so many views, and maybe there are that many old golfers out there. I don't know how many younger people were looking at it, but that one, was kind of a surprise. And then you put up something else that you think is going to be huge. I had the guys put up Freddie Prinze because I did an interview with an outfit in Montreal, and so I reminded them about the show that Bob did in Montreal. Before the Olympics, and Freddie Prinze was on the show. And Freddie Prinze, to me, is a huge, iconic, guy. And crickets.
No kidding.
Wow. I guess nobody remembers him, or nobody cares, or a little bit of both. So it's hard to guess, what's going to catch the attention of, I understand, that was 50 years ago. So, I'm remembering it with, through a different lens, I guess, than people looking at it today. So.
Right.
Wow.
Right.
So I'm curious to the the copyright issues and who actually owns this archive, because I've seen and read a lot of problems out there about no, well, the studio owns it and you've got to buy the rights to it. And, how are you working through all of that, or even are you even running into that issue?
Well, we run into that very rarely because we own all of the radio shows. We own all of the television shows. That was Bob's deal. So the studios have no ownership on those. Some of the movies,
smart man, yeah.
Yeah, he was a smart guy. And in television, when he got into television, it was very, very new. And a lot of movie stars didn't want to go into television. They were afraid of it, and they thought it was going to kill their movie career and so forth. And he was all in on it, and to the point where, even though he told me one day, he said, I didn't really think television was going to last because it was live, and you had to memorize an hour show. Whereas a movie, you did 2 or 3 minutes at a time. In radio, you could hold your script. So, if you didn't rattle the paper, you're a star. But to memorize an hour TV program, we thought, I don't think people are going to do that. They'll do that for a year. I think people are going to get tired of it. And he said, I'm not sure this is going to last. But nonetheless, he wanted to own all the shows just in case. And once they were able to record shows, they were off to the races now because. Although the best shows were always the live ones, when things would go wrong, that was the most fun.
Yep. Yep. Okay. Absolutely.
That's something I was curious about.
That was actually a pretty good question. I like that. I'm actually surprised. No, not really. So you kind of were Bob's right hand, I guess. Is that correct? You worked a lot with him.
I worked a lot with him. I don't know that I would, He had a lot of right-handed guys and so forth, and made a couple of his own. But I don't think you could just single out any one person. But I certainly had an opportunity to work with him a lot and very closely. It was just part of the job. So you had an opportunity to bond with him very quickly. Yeah. Because one of the things that you did. Was to go over to his house and run tape for him. And it would just be you and him sitting in a chair looking at this tape. And so you had an opportunity, he would make a lot of conversation, ask you questions about things. Why do you think that joke died? And what could we have done that would have been a funnier out for this? How could we, should we use this joke? Should we use that joke? And, he would ask you questions And in as much as I thought, well, this is a 3-month job, I don't have anything to lose by just telling them what I think. And so, and I would say, well, it didn't work because it's not funny. I mean, that wasn't a funny joke. The better joke was the one that that we didn't use, and I would tell him that, and I would just give him my opinion,
Right.
And he would not always agree with it. Sometimes he would, sometimes he wouldn't. But what he appreciated was that you weren't trying to guess what he wanted to hear, and I guess that's probably what he had around him most of the time.
Right. The honest opinions.
Right.
Yeah. I wasn't encumbered by that because I thought, well, I'm out of here in 3 months anyway. So, if I'd known that it hadn't been a permanent job from the start, I may have been less forthcoming,
No, that's
Right.
probably why they kept you.
Yeah.
It might have been part of the reason that,
Yeah.
so, I mean, he tells me the truth, and,
Smart to speak your mind. Yeah.
but he gives me his truth. So,
Yeah. I mean, when I ask somebody for their opinion, I want their honest answer. Well, except then,
Yeah, but if Bob Hope's asking you, feel a little intimidation. Like,
Right?
oh,
I was
man,
going to say.
shit, what's he want to hear?
So actually, that was going to be one of my questions for Jim. So when you did get this job, and then you ended up, being part of this legacy, how intimidating was it for you?
well, it was intimidating in the beginning, the first time that I went over there, because I hadn't met him yet. I was hired by the production, by the producer, who had vouched for me to him, and I hadn't met him. Now, I mean, I certainly knew what an enormous star he was because he was on in my family's household every time there was a special. So I mean, he was probably one of the 10 or 15 most famous faces on the planet.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't know what a person like that is going to be like, And so you go over there and, on pins and needles that, you hear horror stories about some people, is he going to be a Joan Crawford or something, have been nicer. I mean, he was just a regular guy, he was just a normal guy who, wanted to have a hamburger and fries and not, go to LaSare and get all dressed up. He was just one of us, any one of the three of you would have gone along famously with him because he just was an easy guy to get along with. He was not moody. He was not dark. He didn't consider himself to be above you or better than you. And, and you could feel it. So you could understand right away that this guy is nothing to be afraid of. He's the boss. And, that's always going to be the truth. But he didn't ride people. He didn't, tear people down. He wasn't hard to get along with. He worked hard and he expected everybody around him to work hard. And people wanted to work hard for him because he appreciated it. And I don't know that there's so much of that exists, today.
Right.
Yeah. Now there's a lot of nasty attitudes out there.
Yeah, a sense of entitlement that I think a lot of people have.
Yeah.
If I'm going to speculate why, there's so many avenues now for people to get attention that in a lot of ways it's easy to become a star of some sort or other and have a lot of subscribers and a fan base that adores you and follows your every movement and your every tweet. But in the old days, it was hard to be a star. There were, you had to be, maybe from Broadway or you could get on radio maybe and be, there were very limited ways that you could get your face and your talent out in front of the public. And so what I found is not only Bob, but everybody from that generation, Lucy and Milton Berle and George Burns and Danny Thomas and all those people, they were just like him because they had a real sense of gratitude for
they were thankful.
the life that they had and the career that they had because, it was very hard to get, and they appreciated the fans because the fans made it possible, and the fans could take it away as quickly as they gave it. If you alienate your fans, you kind of disappear fairly quickly. And they just appreciated everybody that was part of the process, the lighting men, the sound guys, the makeup. It was all part of what made them who they are. And I don't know that people appreciate that like they should.
Right. No, I'm gonna have to agree with you on that one for sure. I mean, Jeff and I do a lot of touring. We do a lot of conventions, multiple styles of conventions, and there's a few of them out there that we've talked to that it's almost like, wow, because if it wasn't for people like us that are your fans, you wouldn't be sitting there.
Yeah.
You know,
They forget that. They forget that part.
They do seem to forget it. They seem to think that you need them more than they need you, and that is rarely the truth.
Right. So you got to tour with Bob to a lot of the USO shows, correct?
Yeah.
So what was that like? I mean, not just being with Bob, but I know he used to bring big names with him too.
Yes, he did.
You know.
Yeah, we went to Beirut, which was alarming.
I can imagine.
Desert Storm was fascinating. The travel is the thing that you notice the most. And even in those days, travel was not that hard. But it took a long time to get to these places. You're on C-130s that are cold and loud. This is not commercial aircraft, and it's not first class, and there's not a cute waitress with champagne and stuff. They're hard places to get to. The travel that once you are there, you're bouncing around in helicopters or trucks, jumping from ship to ship. It's hard to get sleep. You don't have a regular schedule. You're off your regular calendar. And it wears on you because you're not accustomed to it. And the interesting thing about it is that he was so good at it, and he'd been doing it a long time.
Right.
But he could sleep anywhere, literally anywhere. It didn't matter what commotion was going on around him. He could sleep for 15 or 20 good solid minutes. Every time he gets off a helicopter, or he jumps out of a truck or whatever, he's absolutely fresh. And even at his advanced age, he was 87 and does it.
Yeah, I was going to say 87.
87.
And you guys did Saudi at Desert Storm.
I mean, he's the most energetic guy out there, and sharp. And, he loved it, and he was good at it. And obviously, it's something that he learned over the years because he had done so many shows. But you think about World War II, when he was hopping islands around the South Pacific in the little planes that they had available to him. I imagine how long it took to even get there, and you had to stop and refuel, and the landing strips were cleared, by cutting trees. They weren't paved. You're over water, a tremendous amount of it. Was an awful lot of things that could have gone wrong, and that was, I'm sure, he got jungle rot on his foot that plagued him for the rest of his life. Got fungus grew in his ears and things. It was just the commitment to make those trips, because he understood the value of it, and the people that he entertained were suffering a whole lot worse than he did for the 6 weeks that he was out there.
Right.
So, he had perspective on it, but until you've made the trip, you don't realize just how hard it is. Even in modern circumstances, even in the 80s and 90s, it was hard.
Now, was Bob ever in the service?
No.
No. Okay.
No, he wasn't.
Do you know where his love for the service came from?
What's that?
Do you know where his love for the military came from? Why he was so involved in trying to make them have a happier time in such shitty moments?
He had he fell into it by accident. Actually, Jeremy, he had a writer. He was on radio. He had a writer who had a brother that was stationed at March Field, which is about an hour from here, from Los Angeles. And he had to talk. He said, "Well, let's take the show down and do a show down there for the people, the guys that are down there." And Bob said, "Well, what for? We're doing great right here in Hollywood, and what do you want to go down there for?" Well, he didn't know that he wanted to send the show down there for his brother, and so he got talked into it. And the whole cast rode down on a bus and did the show. And the reception that they got from that audience blew him out of the water. You know, he had no expectation for what it was going to be. The love that they had, the appreciation that they had for this cast and crew to come down and do a show for them. And it was an hour bus ride. It's not like they went halfway around the world, you know. And they were so appreciative. And he thought, wow, how long has this been going on? And he fell in love with them, and they fell in love with him. And he did a show every week from a different camp, all during the war. But after Pearl Harbor, he wanted to enlist. And Roosevelt is the one that talked him out of it. Because he said, you're doing more good just, you know, doing what you are and going around and entertaining the guy, keeping the morale up. And so he said, really, you're doing more good that way. And I'd rather you just keep that up and do that.
Wow.
And so he did. Like a lot of Hollywood celebrities did enlist and go to war and so forth. But Roosevelt talked him out of it. So
he saw something. He saw something special.
Yeah.
Yeah. There was a special bond already that existed between Bob and the service audience, and it just grew stronger, especially when you started to go overseas and visit these guys, you know, in the jungles and in the forests of Europe and so forth. You know, I mean, he would do a show for, you know, 25 guys. You know, I mean, he'd do big shows, but a lot of them were not, you know, centrally located. There were small divisions that were over here and over there, and you know, he would do a show for small audiences because he didn't want them to be left out. And boy, you know, I mean, they appreciated that 1,000%.
Yeah,
that's really cool.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
So, based on all the year, how long do you think it's going to take you to move all this stuff over to YouTube?
I won't live long enough. After take it over, I'll start. Send me your cards and letters. I'll pick somebody.
Oh, hey, it's like Willy Wonka.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the golden ticket. It's thousands of hours.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Yeah, you know, and we don't want to put it all up, you know, just at once en masse. First of all, I can't even imagine how hard it would be to even accomplish that, even if you were to do it 24/7. How long would it take to upload all of that material? We're just trying to, you know, pick things that sometimes are timely, like, you know, the Star Wars thing for May the 4th, you know, made sense. Arnold Palmer for PGA week and so forth. If it's somebody's birthday or, you know, whatever. Do something.
Things that are relevant.
Yeah, something that has some relevance, and the rest is just picking something that we just think is fun and trying to mix it up a little bit. So, you know, there's a little bit of everything. We have some musical performances that are on there, you know, with John Denver and Dean Martin and stuff. That's not comedy at all. It's just them doing a performance that they did on the show. So some of it's just music like that. Some of it is sketches. So a lot of it will be monologue. And, you know, the hard part, in a lot of ways, is finding monologue topics that are still relative to audiences today, because he was so topical. And, you know, I mean, you put jokes about Senator Kefauver would be a dud, and who knows. But, you know, if you could do something about baseball and the actors' strike or any of those kind of things, those will always work. You know, they bring a reference, but you have to kind of pick and choose carefully.
Makes sense.
Fair enough.
Which means a lot of going through things, being no. Okay. Yeah, it's going to take some time.
That can be a daunting task all in itself. Just having to sit there and, like, is it already all documented, like say for like May the 4th, like were you guys able to just be like, oh, went to like some kind of program and like, yes, we have this already, blam blam blam, and it connected all like that? Or is it more like we're going through tapes and
it's just in your head at this point? You've seen it.
No kidding.
So you kind of know everything that's out there.
It's kind of like a Rain Man thing.
the May the 4th was an easy one because you know right away that Mark Hamill was on the show. He did a sketch with Olivia Newton-John. He also does song and dance with Bob. I mean, Mark Hamill. Who knew? So that was an easy one. But then other things are sometimes I put up the monologue that Bob does when Elvis is drafted into the Army, which I think is one of the great 3 or 4 minutes of monologue that he ever does, because his timing is perfect. He's having so much fun with it. He loved Elvis, but he's poking fun, at the Army and Elvis, like this is gonna end the Cold War here. Elvis is going into the Army. And it's just, so you pick things like that though that audiences today can still they can understand what it is. And unfortunately, there's a lot of topics in monologues, or even in some of the sketches, references in some of the sketches and things that are very specific and very dated, and those aren't going to play because people are not going to get. They're not.
It was funny then, but not anymore.
Yeah, who wants to keep stopping and then Googling,
What's he talking about? Who's this dude?
Who is Dawes?
Well, unless you have somebody like myself that loves history.
Yeah.
But I can see that.
Yeah. So we try and pick things that are going to be accessible to all audiences. Not everybody's going to remember a great portion of the.
Do you have a favorite guest yourself that Bob had on, or anything like that? That was just like, oh my God, this was the moment that won me over.
Well, for me, it would have been Barbara Eden.
Oh, nice.
Okay. Because like I'm sure all of us here, growing up and watching I Dream of Jeannie.
Yep.
And she was just so beautiful. And 8 years later, all of a sudden, there she is. She's on the show, and I get to meet Barbara Eden. And despite all of and I knew I was going to get to meet her. I knew she was going to be on the show. And despite all of I played this thing out in my head 100 different ways, and I was so cool in every one. And yet, when I met her, I couldn't put 2 words together.
Right.
When you meet a Barbara Eden or a Raquel Welch or somebody like that, right. We're all just pimple-faced 14-year-old boys. You can't not be. It's just and she's, she was very sweet and very nice about it. That was such a highlight for me, because I had just watched her. I was just watching her 8 years ago, and now here she is.
Right.
And Brooke Shields was just the sweetest person that you'll ever meet, ever. She was just delightful and just such a nice person. And she was on the show a lot. Bob loved her, he adored her, and she him. And she was just delightful. What a nice lady. What a nice girl in those days. Now she's a nice lady.
Did he ever have any of the Charlie's Angels on?
He had Kate Jackson on.
Okay.
And she was on a Christmas show. That unfortunately was a little bit before my time, by a couple of years, few years. That would have been wonderful. Linda Evans, I got to meet from Dallas.
Okay. Yep.
That was a highlight. And now I'm blanking on the blonde daughter from Dallas. No, I've lost her name. She was on the show. This is embarrassing for her. Not her name, but but he would always want to have whoever was really hot and on a big show, and a lot of them, interestingly, were, people like Donna Mills and Morgan Fairchild, and, because, or John Forsythe, they were on a show that was top of the ratings, but, they're dramatic actors and actresses, actually, and the shows that they're on are dramas, and you'll have them come on and they'll be doing comedy, and they'll be doing it pretty well. And singing and dancing and all the things that you would never expect them to do. And I think they enjoyed it because they got an opportunity to do something that nobody ever asked them to do, and that they know how to do, and they want you to know that they know how to do it. But he made it such fun, and he was very generous as an entertainer and as a comedian, in that he gave the best jokes to the guests at his own expense. And so he gave them every opportunity to be successful right away. And that's why he could keep getting them to come back on the show. I think they had fun. They were funny and could be funny, and he gave them the best lines. So.
Wow. And you got to meet some outstanding individuals.
Yeah.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
Wow.
It's the only reason I'm part of this show.
So you can meet outstanding individuals.
Yes.
I mean,
people that I look up to, man.
Yeah. Sure.
Yeah. You know, I feel the same way. We've had some amazing guests over the years. But you know, you got to meet a lot of amazing people. I'm looking at the show notes and I'm just going, wow, Milton Berle, George Burns, you know, Lucille Ball, Jackie Gleason,
Classics.
You know,
a legend. Yeah, absolute legends of television.
They really are.
And movies. And so Lucy was the chemistry between Bob and Lucy was very magical. Unfortunately, Bing was already gone before I came around. I would have loved to have met Bing and seen those two together. Because the chemistry that they have on film is incredible. But Bob and Lucy, I mean, they were just magic together. And you know, the thing about Lucy was she was tireless and such a perfectionist. You know, I mean, she'd been on television for 30 years already, 35 years already. Her fans, like Bob, are going to watch whatever you put up there, you know, and neither one of them ever gave less than 100%. They wanted it to be as good as it could be. And she would do things over and over and over again. And everybody thought that they were great. And she'd say to the director, I want to do it one more time. I can do it better. I can do it better. She wasn't 100% happy with it. And she would keep doing it until she thought that she got it right. In her mind, that was the performance that she was looking for. And that was the performance that the audience deserved. And I thought, well, you know, I mean, there's a work ethic that is rare. And more so, I think, where people just know that people are going to look at whatever they throw up there.
Today's world, that's good enough.
Coming from the construction world, all I heard was, you know, it looks good for my house. It's like, what?
Yeah.
It's not that good.
Exactly. Yeah.
Wow. Times are certainly different. I mean, comedy has changed so much.
Oh yeah.
You know, I try. You know, things. The funniest thing I see now is Dunham, and you know, other than that, to me, there's no comedy anymore.
He's the puppet guy, right?
Yeah, Jeff Dunham. Yeah.
Jeff Dunham. Yeah, we had him on a show, and it was wonderful. He's so creative, such a creative guy. You know, I think that I guess one of the things that we're hoping is that younger generations will discover Bob, because stand-up comedy is such a large part now of the entertainment landscape that we all live in. And Netflix and is loaded with stand-up shows, and so the stand-up comedy was not always a thing. You know, Bob made it a thing. You know, there would be entertainers like a Will Rogers or a Mark Twain or something that would spin humorous tales, and there would be jokes that were weaved into them, but it was a larger tapestry. And you know, to just stand up there by yourself on a stage in front of an audience and just tell jokes one after another without it being part of any kind of a story or anything, that was new and you know, very groundbreaking. And you know, so now we take it for granted. And you know, and Carson was very good at it with the monologues that he would do on the Tonight Show, and you know, but that all started with Bob. It all, you know, I mean, that goes all the way back to the 1920s, and that's when he started to do that. and and not successfully right away. It took time. It was work.
Well, it was new. It was something new that people didn't understand. But he definitely paved the way for stand-up comedy. I mean, it's that simple.
Yeah, he created that.
And it kind of shows like SNL and stuff, because they were doing skits and all that through all the time. So
right. Wow.
So I wanted to ask you a little bit about the actual foundation. What does the foundation do?
The foundation has two basic missions, and one is to feed, clothe, and shelter the poor, the underprivileged, and the poor. Okay. And the other is to service veterans, because they were very near and dear to Bob's heart. And an awful lot of our veterans are struggling and have fallen on hard times, physical ailments or worse, mental ailments. And a great many of them have fallen through the cracks. And it was always his goal, to try and improve their situation and help them get their lives back on track. And so that's a large part of what the foundation does. And when he died, and then Dolores died, all of the properties were sold, and all of that money went into the estate, into the foundation. It was not divvied up amongst the kids. They had gotten whatever they were going to get, and they're certainly not wondering where their next meal is coming from. But the lion's share of his vast estate went into the foundation, and that money will be spent on these type of things. So to help the poor and to help the vets. So I mean, he's a person that always did give back. He was very charitable even from his very early days, because he had such an appreciation, and he felt very lucky. That's a word that he used all the time, how lucky he was. And he thought that he needed to, he wanted to give back, because he was lucky, and he wanted to help other people, maybe get a little lucky too. And that was a big part of who he was. Very philanthropic, and so they're doing wonderful work, and I think that he would be very proud of what they are doing in his life.
Now, can people donate to the foundation?
I'm not the person to ask. I suppose that you can, but I honestly don't know. I mean, the foundation, it has a website, bobhope.org, and I think that, anytime, for instance, that, when I license a clip or anything to somebody, they pay the foundation. So, the foundation.
Okay, good.
That goes into the foundation. So I assume that people can donate to the foundation. I don't think that they're out, banging boards together trying to get people to do it. But
right. Okay.
Yeah. And actually, I was going to bring that up, Jeff. If any of our viewers or listeners are interested in finding out more about the foundation, it is definitely in the show notes up above or down below, depending on where you're watching or listening to us, along with all the information on the launch of the Bob Hope YouTube channel, which is why we're here, to keep a legend alive, I believe.
It's a good way to put it.
Yeah. Well, it's funny. I mean, it was a long time ago to a lot of people, but everybody knows who Bob Hope was.
Oh yeah,
right.
I don't care how old you are.
Well,
which is weird, I mean, you don't get that very often.
Yeah, it's not to contradict you, Jeff, but with younger people, they don't. Younger people, they don't.
The ones I talk to do.
Do they?
Maybe, maybe, I mean, I'm talking, the 20-year-olds. You get younger than that, forget about it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, you get younger than that, and the only thing they're interested in is, how fast can I play my video game on my phone?
Right, and which ocean is SpongeBob in, so I can go visit him.
Yes.
Right. But, yeah, I mean, I think what you guys are doing with releasing the channel could change that, because streaming services are huge. Shows like what we do are huge. Releasing the footage like that, I find myself just scrolling through YouTube sometimes, and you type in a keyword, and it's all about the keyword. So you type in a keyword, and boop, it pops up, and they go, "What is this?" Oh, and they watch it, and they go, "Well, that was kind of cool," or "That was funny," And before you know it, you're gaining traction with the YouTube channel, and people are learning more and more about Bob.
Right.
Yeah. The difficulty and the secret is letting people know that it's there. And then, like you say, once they find it, even if they find it by accident.
That's the hard part.
Yeah.
But when you start watching
That's the hard
something, as soon as that's over, it loads up something for you to watch next that it thinks is very similar. And you can lose hours that way, just going from clip to clip to clip. But this is why it's so important to be able to do shows like this, is to let people know that it's out there. Yep. Because there's never been more demand for people's attention than there is today, and tomorrow there will be more than there is today. So It's very hard to get noticed. I think that when people do go to see it, even if they've never seen Bob before, if we can get them to come once, they'll come back, because he is engaging. But a lot of people, they know there's a Bob Hope Airport and a Bob Hope USO, but they don't really know who Bob Hope is. It's like, I fly into LaGuardia, but I don't, who is LaGuardia? Who is O'Hare? We know the names, but we don't know the people.
Yeah. You don't know the story behind the person.
Yeah.
Right.
Let them know, okay, this is why things are named for him. This is who he was. This is why he was important. And, his character and his type of humor is very accessible, I think, regardless of how old you are, because his character was always an everyman kind of a character. He's always a guy that's trying to be a little bit more than he is, trying to pass himself off as something that he's not quite there at, always trying to get the girl, but never quite does, we're all like that, 95% of us, that's who we are,
Right.
And, so it doesn't matter how old you are. I'll make it very short. I had my son come in one day. He was 10 years old, to help pack boxes when we were moving offices. He didn't pack a single box because I had road pictures running in the background. He sat there and watched 4 of them. He was 10 and they were in black and white. So, why did he watch them? Because they're fast, because he could relate to the characters. And, he never got bored. And, by the time you get into the story, boom, it's over. Those things are 70 minutes and you're out, So, if you get people to look, they're going to look over and over and over again, because he's that good.
Right. Nope, I agree.
Now, how long has the channel actually been up?
Well, it started about 6 months ago, but in earnest, 3 months. We've really been, we've had a regular routine for 3 months. So there's new stuff going on.
So it looks like it's doing pretty well if it's only been a few months.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't have a frame of reference. And, you're in that business, so you guys know better than I. I don't know if there's a good subscriber numbers, if they're lukewarm. I don't know. I just know we keep putting stuff up, and some things are getting a lot of views and some not so many. And it's a learning experience, I guess.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I look at, when I go to anybody's YouTube, is I don't look at subscribers. I look at how many views they're getting on their videos.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Subscribers to me mean nothing.
No, because you can have 100,000 subscribers to your channel, and then you go look at the video and it's only got 30 views.
Yeah.
Right.
They're not interacting.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, that's good to know. That's an interesting piece of information. Some of the clips of 100,000, 200,000.
Yeah, that's good
views.
Yeah.
Oh, hell yeah.
I'd fall out of my chair if I had a clip that had 100,000 views.
Right.
On YouTube,
like literally. Yeah, on YouTube. I'd fall out of my chair.
Gotta have Bob Hope on.
Well, we have the next best thing.
There you go. Mark Hamill will get you there. He's beloved.
Well, you'd be
Mark
surprised.
Hamill is, especially right now with his the Star Wars came back. He's big into doing the Joker and all that other stuff, voice stuff.
Yeah, some of the guests that we've had, I'm like, oh wow, this is going to be a big show. And then I go back and look. I mean, don't get me wrong, all our shows do very well over the 28 platforms. So you pull all the analytics together and we do very well with it. But I go, wow, that only got like 500 views. And then I go over to this show that I didn't think was going to do anything, and it's like 5K, and I'm like,
Yeah.
And that's
you never
nothing.
know.
It's
you
that,
don't
like,
know.
5K is nothing compared to you guys are getting, 100,000, 200,000. But that tells you that
People are paying attention.
the legacy of Bob Hope is still alive,
Mm-hmm.
and people still consider him to be an iconic legend in that industry because they are watching those clips. So that's a huge thing.
Well, I appreciate that. That's gratifying to know, because I they seem like big numbers to me, but there are things that I watch, YouTube channels and things, mostly trying to improve my golf game.
Oh, please.
Which is not helping, but and I see some of these, I bet that they're well-known people, but I mean, they've got they're getting a million views. Or
you should see what the things my kids are watching get for views, and they're just showing opening up toys and stuff. I'm sitting there, I'm like, how is that getting 4 million views? I'm like, what is that doing?
It's relevance. It's relevance. Like you said, golf. Believe it or not, golf is still huge. I like I said, I do construction, but my wife works in retail, and I'll go visit her at work, and I see 8-year-olds, 9-year-olds in golf shorts buying clubs.
Yeah.
What? Yeah. When I was 8 or 9, I was playing in the mud.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So, but I could understand why you would see 4 million views on a golf channel.
Yeah, well, I can see it. Certainly, it has a much larger demographic target.
Yeah, but
the other thing too is you've got to realize that some of those videos have probably been up for a while too.
Oh yeah, years.
I was just going to say that
you've only been up for 3 to 6 months. I mean,
we're still, I think, pretty new. So
it's in its infancy. So I wouldn't be a bit surprised in the next 6 to 9 months because one of them I saw, I think it was 237K or something like that.
Yeah, that's probably
that's on its way to hit 1 million in the next 6 months, without a doubt. So
this is encouraging. Encouraging news.
Absolutely.
I mean, I gave you a couple of views today. So
well, I appreciate it.
I've been giving them views since I knew about. First of all, since I knew about the channel, when I was reached out to, I think it was 2 months ago, I went right to the channel and started. Oh, yeah, okay. I see what they're doing. This is really cool, So again, to our viewers and listeners, definitely check out the YouTube channel. Subscribe if you like it. If you don't like it, that's okay. But check it out. I mean, you won't be disappointed.
Well, there's come back.
The worst that can
there's going to
happen
be
is
new
you're gonna
stuff.
laugh.
Yeah.
Well, right.
The worst thing is you're gonna laugh.
Yeah, new stuff every week, and whatever we put up last week or last month will always be up there. It's never coming down. So it's not like eventually everything will be up there, Jeff, at some point. I don't know when that'll be. But,
I think
that'll take a while. Yeah,
there's so much content there over such a huge illustrious career that I don't even think that any of the three of maybe Jar Jar, he's still a younger gentleman, but
I might get to see the
final episode.
Right.
But we are over time. I don't want to keep you too long. But with that being said, any last questions, Jar Jar?
Weird one. I don't think it possibly ever happened, but how did Bob ever handle hecklers? Were there ever any hecklers? Was it usually just a good tame crowd? I mean, how did that go?
I don't remember him ever getting heckled. I mean, the Bob Hope audience was, they wouldn't heckle. It's just not. It's not who they were. It wasn't their character within their character to do that. I don't remember him ever getting heckled.
Okay.
Yeah, I
And
can't.
yeah, I'm curious because everybody has emotions. Behind closed doors, did he ever get angry?
No, he didn't.
Okay.
And that
I
was
didn't think so.
no. I mean, like a lot of comedians, a lot of comedians have a darkness to them. That seems to be part of the makeup of being a comedian. He didn't have that at all. He was always cheerful. I mean, things didn't always go as planned. There were hiccups, in all things. But he took them in stride, and he just set about, okay, well, let's fix this, let's solve this. He didn't get mad at if somebody made a gaffe or some mistake or whatever that cost a little time or cost a little money. Well, let's move on and let's fix it. And he was very proactive and very, I mean, it's just always one step forward. He never went sideways. He never looked back. And I think that in many ways it's why he engendered such a level of loyalty from the people that worked around it. Because the TV business is a lot like being a football coach or anything. People bounce around, all the time. And he'd have writers for 40 years. He had camera people and lighting people and things for decades. I mean, they loved him and they wanted to work for him because he was kind to them, appreciative. Like a George Clooney is. You read about George Clooney. He plays basketball with the crew, has lunch with the crew, and then you read about other people that are told, don't look him in the eye and stuff. Well, you got to work 4 hours overtime to get the shot finished. Who do you think they're going to work for? Which crew is going to be ready to sign up and say, yeah, we're here, we'll do it. Let's get on with it. And which crew is going to say, where's the check?
Yeah. I'm late for dinner.
Yeah.
Okay.
Wow. So I really don't have a last question. I just want to say it was 21 years ago this month that the world lost this amazing legend. And I want to thank you and the foundation for putting up the YouTube channel and keeping that legacy alive for infinity, basically, because as long as there's internet and there's streaming, it's going to be archived there. I want to say great job.
Well, I appreciate it. It was really nice talking to you, and I really, really appreciate you allowing me to access your platform to help get the word out. I really do. It means a lot.
That no thanks necessary.
No.
This is
the honor is ours.
Absolutely. I mean, our viewers and listeners know it's all about the story.
Yeah.
And how could we not talk about this story? I mean, it's just there, in my eyes, there is nobody else in that Hollywood frame that will ever compare to Bob Hope.
Yeah, he's one of a kind. That's for certain. So.
I mean, it's just really that simple.
Yeah.
But with that being said, we definitely ran over time. I don't want to keep you. So let's go. We're going to bring you up full screen, Jim.
There I am.
Yep. So where do you like interacting with fans? Social platforms. Yes.
Boy, we're not social media active. I think that they are talking about doing a Facebook page that would be part, or probably coexist with the YouTube channel in some way, cross-pollinate. So we got a lot of, actually, interestingly, a lot of people will email the foundation when they have a certain question or a request about something, or that as far as on a personal level, they'll just email the foundation and they'll send it over to me to see if I know the answer, and I'll engage in a conversation with people and try to help them out to understand what it was that they were looking for or asking and so forth. That's kind of old-fashioned, I guess, anymore, but that's how it's working right now.
Well, that's where it is, folks. So make sure you check the show notes, folks, because that's where that information is.
Up
Jeremy,
down below, right?
That's right. Up above or down below.
Come hang with me on Facebook. I'm Jeremy Courtney. Come check me out every Tuesday night on Splash Pages, where we hang out and talk about comic books and all the world of geekdom. And I think that's about it for now, except for come check us out next Wednesday here at 7 o'clock and still token with. Who are we still token with next week?
Next week we have William Keck.
Oh.
He's an entertainment reporter. That'll be a fun show. He's the gentleman that digs the dirt on the famous.
Oh, great. So he'll know stuff about you.
No, not me. I'm not that famous.
Oh, really? Oh, infamous. Not
infamous. Yes. Jeffrey.
Yeah. First, I want to say, Jim, I think a Facebook page would do the YouTube channel wonders.
Mm.
You know, I really do. If you can find somebody that can help you kind of put that together and get it running, I think it would help drive traffic to the YouTube channel.
Great.
So that being said, just go to stilltoken.com or Token with the Dead on Facebook. You'll find everything you need to know about us, past guests, and be sure to go to Red Coral Universe. First 2 episodes, I believe, are up and running now.
Sweet.
Along with
only,
our
first episode only. Yeah, I haven't sent him the second one yet. You're talking the live action.
Yeah, the live action, and a whole bunch of our previous, live broadcast shows are up there too. So be sure to check that out. The link is right on our Facebook page and
in the show notes.
Down below.
Yep.
And on the website, and just Google us. You'll find us everywhere.
Pretty much. So I want to thank Jim for coming out. Definitely go over and check out the YouTube channel. I do have to agree with Jeff. I think a Facebook page would definitely help drive traffic to YouTube.
Sure.
And if you can find a younger kid that's interested in Bob Hope, TikTok, believe it or not.
Oh my God.
Yeah, TikTok will work too.
If you could start a TikTok page, a Bob Hope TikTok page, even if they were 30-second clips, it would most definitely help drive traffic to what you guys are trying to achieve.
Right.
Yep.
So,
Kids
like
today in their TikTok.
I'm just being honest, man. I'm an older gentleman. I take clips from our show. I put it on TikTok. It's driving traffic to what we do.
Oh yeah.
So with that being said, like Jeff said, stilltoking.com, you'll find out everything you want to know, from the novel to the comic book series to the live TV series to the upcoming animation to this amazing show. All 200 plus episodes are archived there. And hopefully one day we'll have somebody like Jim talking about us. Doubt it. But to all our veterans and first responders, we want to thank you for doing what you do so people like us can do what we do. Stay safe. Have an amazing 4th of July, everybody. And we will see you next week.
Peace.